you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please make yourself comfortable.
Just may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Good morning, Ms. Noebel.
Good morning.
While I'm getting a couple of photographs, would you please state and spell your name for the court's report?
Christin Noebel, Christin, excuse me, Noebel, Noebel.
Ms. Noebel, please tell the jury how you're employed.
I'm employed with the Dallas County District Attorney's Office.
How long have you been with the Dallas County DA's office?
13 years.
Okay, and so you and I both work for the same individual, the district attorney. I'm not your supervisor, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. You also have a level of expertise for which I don't have. Give the many actually. Would you please let the jury know kind of what your training and experience is?
My current role with the DA's office is I'm their digital multimedia analyst. I'm certified in video forensics through the Law Enforcement and Emergency Services Video Association. I've been an analyst for 3 years, and prior to that, I was a technician since 2011. I was also the graphics specialist for the district attorney's office, in which I handled the exhibits for the court, and then prior to that, I was the information systems coordinator, which all fall in the technology division within the district attorney's office.
Oh, can you speak?
Yes. When I'm looking down.
Okay? All right, good deal. So the very first thing I'd like to talk to you about is, as part of the investigation into the defendant's shooting, did you go out to the Southside Flats at some point close in time to the event and do an audit of their digital recording equipment?
I did, yes.
Okay, can you tell me, or can you tell them what we asked you to do?
There was a digital video recorder, a DVR, at Southside Flats Apartments, and I went and retrieved the video from that digital recorder and also made any notes of the time of the DVR, because some of y'all may not remember VCRs, but like your microwave or your oven, they're manually set, and sometimes the time can be off, so we like to take into account things like that to make sure we can account for any time discrepancies. We make sure that we have all the cameras, or make any notes if any of the cameras weren't functioning or had, like if there was a fog or a crack in the lens or something. We like to just go in and make an evaluation of the system at the time.
Okay. And just in kind of in layman's terms, as you know, I need stuff things like me. You could have an alarm clock next to your bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that alarm clock, if you have to manually program it, it may not actually keep the exact time, and over time it may get off. Does it get off on the time, right?
I don't know if it gets off on the time, but if it's set incorrectly initially, it will maintain an incorrect time.
Right. So is there a process in place where you can actually take a look at the time on an electronic device and compare it to a known time and ascertain whether or not the time being displayed is accurate or not?
That's correct. That's what we did here. I used my cell phone as the known time to document the offset and the time of the DVR.
And why would you have faith in your cell phone?
It is, it's not that I have faith in it, it's just, it's a known time. So that if I need to know how that time was, how it was created, I could go back to Verizon, who was the cellular provider, and find out how they set their servers to set the time. So because it's a known time, I can trace it back to how they set their servers.
And Your Honor, I'd like to open public States Exhibit 258. So I'm showing you what's already in evidence because I'm not going to reduce it like it. As part of the DVR, the recording system that exists at Southside Flats, they actually have a timestamp that is embedded into the software that imprints upon the digital recording. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So 2150 in 12 seconds would indicate 9:50 p.m. with 12 seconds into that current minute. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So I wanted you to find out whether or not those times, as they're imprinted on the surveillance videos, were accurate with the known time.
Correct.
What was your determination?
Initially, just based off of the cell phone did not go into how many seconds into a minute was. So for example, if it said it was 1:13 in the afternoon, I didn't know if it was 1:13 and 1 second or 1:13 and 59 seconds. So initially, the note was a 4-minute discrepancy.
Okay. What were you able to actually narrow that down to?
We have other video from the 7-Eleven that was next door, which it was accurate up into 1 second. And so I could see just the edge of the apartments at one point. So a known event, I could see a car pulling, and then this entryway, I could see that car turn. So because I could see the edge of it, I don't know exactly what the seconds were that it was off, but we were able to narrow it down to approximately 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
All right. So based on your analysis, when the timestamp says on any of these videos, for example, let's just use this one, where it says 9:50, you really need to add 3 minutes and 20 seconds to it.
Yes,
So the real time is going to be 9:53 with with 30 seconds.
32 seconds, yes.
Okay. And is that going to be, because the jury has now a number of these photographs showing cars not only going through the carport area, but also going into the garage parking lot. All of those timestamps, to be accurate, need to have 3 minutes and 20 seconds out of it.
And approximately accurate. We could be off by 1 or 2 seconds, but yes.
Okay. So this car, and I will, for purposes of the record, this has been identified as Mr. Jones's car, chemistry teacher and coach. He would have pulled in at about 21:53, 9:53, almost 9:54 p.m.
9:53 and 32 seconds.
Great. Okay. I also would like to show you this was marked for identification. That states exhibits number 286 and 287. Are these going to be records that you requested that were obtained by way of a subpoena through the Dallas Police Department concerning the automatic vehicle locator that's attached to Dallas police cars? States exhibit 286. This is
Yes.
okay. So did you identify certain cars that were relevant? When I say cars, I mean elements. DPD assigns elements, right, to their officers when they're out in the field so that they can be tracked with GPS and so forth.
That's correct.
All right. And did you identify certain elements like that of Amber Guyger, Martin Rivera, Bruce Hellengard, the CRT team for the day of September the 6th, 2018?
We did, yes.
And did you receive that automatic vehicle locator data?
I did.
All right, and is that currently under a business records affidavit attesting to it and notice to the defense on September the 5th, 2019?
Yes.
And is this how you received it?
Yes.
I offer States Exhibit 286.
It's admitted.
Now I'm showing you what's marked for identification, States Exhibit number 287. Is this going to be what is commonly referred to as a computer-aided dispatch or an incident detail report, which identified the unique Dallas Police Department element numbers, including, like, for example, Martin Rivera and the CRT team, as it existed on September the 6th, 2018?
It identifies their units and the persons in it.
Okay. I offer States Exhibit number 287, also in the business records affidavit, notice to Mr. Rogers on September 5th, 2019.
No objection.
That was admitted as well.
Ms. Noebel, there was a lot of data, including what was just admitted, as well as the metadata for the body-worn cameras, 7-Eleven video that you testified to, and a whole host of other sets of data that you wanted in order to form a timeline for September the 6th, 2018, so that it's accurate. Is that correct?
As accurate as we could get it, yes.
Okay. And can you give, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just do this. Did you compile all of that data and then cross-reference it with each other to come up with what you believe to be a reliable timeline of Mr. John and Defendant Guyger on September the 6th, 2018?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked for identification. States Exhibit 284, page 1, 2, and 3. They're right there. Are those going to, is that going to be a fair and accurate depiction of the timeline that you've created from the data that you received?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to offer States Exhibit number 284 for all purposes. Page 1, 2, and 3.
This is exactly the same that you showed us. really approach?
Sure.
The earlier objections, as stated on the record in the hearing and the motion of limiting regarding the substance of the testimonies.
And those objections will be overruled, and states 284 will be agreed.
All right. Ms. Noebel, I'm showing you now what's been marked for identification as States Exhibit 284, D as in David. Can you look at that CD and make sure it still contains your initials? And can you confirm that that is a CD that you created for me, which contains States Exhibit 284, but in a digital format with all of the underlying work product data supporting the information? In other words, not just the event, but all of the data supporting it.
That's correct.
For States Exhibit number 284D for record.
No objection for record.
It's admitted for record purposes.
All right, lastly, with respect to 284, the three pieces of paper that I just showed you, you can stay there. There's no 284A, 284B, and 284C. Are those going to be exact copies of 284, except that we've blown them up so that the jury could follow along with you in addition to the TV screens?
They are.
All right, so all for 284A, B, and C.
Mr. Rogers, I presume you have the same
Same
objection.
objection, Judge.
Those are overruled, and they will be admitted. Is this for demonstrative purposes or all purposes?
Judge, I'm going to go ahead and offer it for all purposes in case it's needed for operations.
Same objection, Judge.
Same rules.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can you see the number there? All right. All right, Ms. Noble, you have the clicker?
I do.
All right. Would you go ahead and take me and the jury through the data compilation showing the events of Mr. John and the defendant on September 6, 2018 from the various data points that you've received? If the defense has an objection as to where the particular source is from, of course, let them regard you on that, and you can give them an answer, okay?
Okay, do you want me to go to that source or wait until, or if?
We'll wait and see if they have a question.
Okay.
Okay? All right, so go ahead and just begin, and I'll be up here to check the boards when the time comes.
And I can barely see that from here, so I'll look here. Sorry, guys. At 7:23, we have a record that the defendant leaves his home, his apartment 1478.
Okay? What's the next relevant point on the timeline?
Excuse me, but you mentioned the defendant leaves his apartment.
That's correct.
Defendant is Ms. Guyger.
I apologize. Defendant leaves her apartment, 1378.
Okay?
At 7:47, the defendant undocks her body camera at the Southeast substation.
Okay?
At 8 a.m., the defendant starts her shift at the Southeast substation.
Okay.
At 8:15 and 8:16, we have Botham Jean's car starts at 8:15, and at 8:16, we have a door event at his apartment, 1478.
And just for illustrative purposes, in this particular timeline rendition, have you indicated the defendant's events in blue and the complainant's events in green?
That's correct. And any other outside stuff will be illustrated in orange.
Okay.
At 8:57, we have Botham Jean's car arriving at his destination. From 12 to 1:14, the defendant is at the central station for briefing. From approximately 1:22 to 2:07, the defendant is at a scene. At 2:11, the defendant is en route to DPD's headquarters.
All right, let me interrupt you real quick. When you were looking at the AVL, the automatic vehicle locator data, as well phone, GPS data, all of which is in evidence. Is that how you were able to confirm the location out of the scene and at Central Station?
From the vehicle records of the DPD squad cars, that's correct.
Okay, and when you say at the scene, is that going to be at the scene where the SWAT operation occurred and the CRT units were aiding them at a perimeter post?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. So until 211, well, basically from about 122 until 207, the defendant and the CRT team were out at that particular perimeter location.
Yes, the GPS points that we have them at the scene.
Okay.
From 2:21 to 7:33 p.m., the defendant was at DPD headquarters. During this time, at 8:56, Botham Jean's car arrives home, and at 5:02, Botham Jean has a door event at his apartment 1478.
All right, let me interrupt. You said 8:56, but for Mr. Jean...
Oh, I apologize.
That's okay. So at 4:56 p.m., his car data indicates that there was a car event arriving at home.
His car arrives to Southside Flats, yes.
Okay. And at 5:02, a door event to his particular door showing a lock or an unlock. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's going to be during that block of time when the defendant is at DPD for whatever purposes she was at DPD.
Yes.
And you indicated also below, though, there was an arrow showing at 2:54 p.m. there was an event involving the defendant. What was that?
At 2:54, the defendant sends a Snapchat to her partner, Martin Rivera.
Okay, were we able to ascertain the Snapchat, does that usually send an image?
It can.
Okay, and do those images erase themselves as part of the application program?
It should.
Okay, do we know what that image was?
We don't. We did not receive that image.
Okay. All right, what happened next?
Between 5:55 and 6:12, defendant and Martin send multiple texts and MMS to each other.
Okay, so text, I'm familiar with what a text is. What is an MMS?
Multimedia message, and that's if you send a picture, or in this case, if there are multiple persons in a group text, then it will be an MMS. It can just be text. It doesn't have to be a picture if there are multiple persons in that group.
But if it involves just one person, is that indicative of an image?
Yes.
Okay, so those transactions for which MMS messages are indicated on the phone data, just between the defendant and Martin Rivera, is going to be indicative of images.
Yes.
Were we able to recover any of those images?
No.
All right. Now, I will just ask you this: are you aware of our efforts to obtain or try and recover those images?
I am aware of the processes that we sought out to obtain those.
All right, what happened next?
From 7:39 to 9:03, we have the defendant at the jail, which is Lou Sterrett Jail here in Dallas.
Please.
Okay. So I guess, you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So basically, just as far as we are right now, right, it looks like we're through about 9 o'clock in the evening on September the 6th. Does the data indicate that the defendant is either at DPD headquarters or the Dallas County Jail, where officers book in and do their reports, from 2:21 p.m. until about 9:03 p.m.?
That's correct.
So what is the next item?
At 8:47 p.m., Botham Jean leaves his home. We have a door event and car data supporting that.
So Mr. Jean has come home at about 4:56 in the afternoon, and he's now, at least according to the data, his vehicle is back in motion, and there's a door event which shows that he left and locked it. Presumably he left and locked his door.
Now or at 5?
No, at 8:47.
Yes, at 8:47, he has exited his home and is in his car.
Okay. And then, all right, what's next?
At 9:14, Martin Rivera sends a Snapchat to the defendant.
Okay, again, same line of question. Were we able to recover what that particular image was?
We were not.
All right, what happened next?
At 9:17, the defendant arrives at the Southeast substation.
All right. So after leaving the jail, the defendant and the remaining members of her CRT team went to their substation and arrived at approximately 9:17 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, what next?
At 9:26, the defendant docks her body cam at the Southeast station.
Okay, and what happens after that?
From 9:27 to 9:33, the defendant and Martin Rivera send multiple texts, MMS, and Snapchats to each other.
Okay, so that's going to be for a 6-minute block of time. There were several of all kinds of media interactions between the defendant and Mr. Rivera.
That's correct.
Okay, and then what happened at 9:29?
At 9:29, the defendant sends a Snapchat response, "Wanna touch."
Okay, and then?
At 9:33, the defendant sends a text message, "Barely walking out."
Okay,
And these are to Martin Rivera.
okay, and what happened next?
At 9:27 and 9:28, we see Botham Jean arriving to Southside Flats on their digital video recorder.
Okay, so Mr. Jean is arriving back to his apartment complex just a few minutes before the defendant is leaving the Southeast substation.
Yes.
Okay, what happened next?
At 9:34, we have a door event at apartment 1478, Botham Jean's apartment. At 9:38:37, the defendant receives a phone call from her partner, Martin Rivera.
Okay. And that is going to last until 9:55:21?
That's correct.
All right. And let me just ask this, Mr. If we already know from the data that she is at the Southeast substation at 9:34, and we know what time she arrives at the Southside Flats based on the data from their video recording system being about 9:46, most of this, or it looks like at least half of the conversation between her and Martin Rivera occurs while she's driving home.
Approximately, yes.
Okay, is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
All right. And then does that conversation, after she's entered into the parking garage, continue then for another 7-8 minutes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, all right, what happened next?
At 9:53 and 9:54, we see Ronald Jones turning into the carport at Southside Flats on channel 15 and channel 10 of their digital video recorder.
Okay.
At 9:59, a 911 call is placed by the defendant.
Okay, so sometime between 9:55:21 then and 9:59, I believe it's 06. Is that when the exact time when the call was made from?
9:59:10, I believe, is what the 911 call records show.
Okay. So it's going to be in that 3 minutes and 40-some seconds. There's a 3 minute and 40-some second gap between the end of the call with Martin Rivera and the incoming call at Dallas Police Department to the 911 system.
Yes.
Okay. What happened next?
At 10:01:18, DPD Sergeant Brianna Valentine arrives at Southside Flats. At 10:02:06, DPD Officer Michael Lee is one of the first responding officers, and they arrive at Southside Flats. At 10:02:25, the defendant texts Martin Rivera, "I need you, hurry."
This is going to again be during the pendency of the ongoing 911 call.
This is during the 911 call. At 10:03:03, the defendant texts Martin Rivera again and says, "I fucked up."
All right. Also during the 911 call.
Yes. At 10:04:39, we can see DPD Lee's body camera showing Officer Blair reaching the defendant outside of 1478. At 10:04:47, the defendant, Blair, and Lee enter apartment 1478. At 10:05:08, Guyger leaves the apartment, which was 1478. At 10:05:26, Lee and Blair start CPR on Botham Jean. At 10:12, Dallas Fire Rescue enters the apartment 1478. At 10:12:03, Dallas Fire Rescue leaves the apartment with Botham Jean. At 10:16:12, we can see Sergeant Valentine on her in-car camera moving her squad car underneath the carport at Southside Flats.
Is that where we see her pulling up? Have you seen that video?
Yes.
Are you speaking in the video where she's pulling up and the defendant is speaking to numerous people under the carport?
I don't recall seeing the defendant speaking to anyone, but yes, she pulls her car from the street under the carport.
Thank you.
Yeah, fair approach.
Yes.
Ms. Noebel, so you're based all this information on your extraction of the data, correct?
It's not my extraction of the data, it's the data that was available to me, yes.
You're looking at the data that was available to you,
Correct.
and you're not testifying as to the reliability or accuracy of the data?
In reference to what part?
Well, I'm just, the way you're looking at this case, a door event in apartment 1478 means either locking or unlocking of the door, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And a engine starting or the car starting is someone starting the car, correct?
That's correct.
And so, do you know why Mr. John was able to start his car prior to leaving his apartment?
I have an explanation for that, yes.
Is there something on the data that explains that?
Mr. Hermes went over that some times are set by a person, and if they're set wrong initially, they're going to maintain that incorrect time. So in this instance, the door lock was the thing that was likely inaccurate because it had a year of 2012 and the apartments were not built in 2012. So we can assume that it meant 2018 and not 2012. And the time was off by approximately an hour from the records. And we know that because we have the door event and then just within minutes, the car starting. So that's a logical explanation that he locked his door, walked to his car, and his car started.
So he locked his door at what time?
The exact time isn't known, but on the records, it shows.
My question is, what time did he lock his door?
The exact time I cannot tell you.
So you're confident he started his car at 8:15?
Based on the records, yes.
So you're sure of that, but you're telling us the lock on it, you're not sure about?
So part of the process is taking known times. So things that I could find answers to if the time was accurate, I did. And the GPS data in his car was accurate. It's set by GPS. It's set by satellites in the sky. The thing that I couldn't ascertain for sure was when, how the lock data was set, like who set that time and how that time was made. So part of validating the unknown times is relying on the times that are known.
And you don't know what time he locked his door, correct?
The precise time, that's correct, I don't know.
Doesn't hurt.
Is there redirect?
No, ma'am.
May she be excused?
No objection.
No objection from the state.
Thank you very much, Ms. Noebel.